Hello, my name is Patrick Fowles. I first went to Cambodia with my wife Mary and daughter Courtney with the Cambodian Master Performers Program delegation of 2003. At the time, we knew very little about CMPP, or Cambodian Living Arts as the project is now called, and we went mainly just as tourists because we'd always wanted to see Angkor Wat. We expected to be amazed by the beauty and intricacy of Angkor Wat, and we were not disappointed. We wondered at the artistry and culture of the society that had created this masterpiece. Angkor Wat itself must be one of the most beautiful buildings in the world, but the many other Wats in the Angkor complex are gems in their own right. We watched the dawn rise over the Bayon Monument and sat in silence and peace as the sun set over Ta Keo, the Temple Mountain. And we wandered quietly through Ta Prohm, where many of the trees that once covered the buildings have been left in place, their roots seeming to flow down over the old walls like wooden waterfalls. But what we had not expected was that these incredible ancient temples would turn out to be a rather small part of our experience in Cambodia. Learning about the work of Cambodian Living Arts and getting to know the CLA staff, the Cambodian master performers, and of course their wonderful students, had a much greater impact. Meeting An Chorn Pon, the founder and guiding light of CLA, was particularly moving. We knew very little about him when we arrived in Cambodia, and were quickly influenced by his charismatic energy and drive, and by his absolute faith that we can all make a difference if we really want to. For me personally, witnessing the progress of this small organization, begun by one man with the help of just a few friends, towards a revival of traditional art forms in a country still suffering the after effects of one of the world's most brutal genocides, was truly inspirational. The center of CLA activity in Siem Reap is at the Temple Wat Bo. Here, with CLA's encouragement and help, several master musicians and shadow puppeteers are once again working with students. Classes are held on the temple grounds, and the delegation spent several afternoons joining the classes and later watching performances. Sitting with the masters as they teach a new generation of musicians, and even trying to play some of the instruments ourselves, puts a very personal face on this vital transfer of skills and knowledge. Knowledge that was in danger of disappearing just a few years ago. And as we watched the performances given by the Wat Bo students, whether music, dance, opera, or shadow puppets, we marveled at both the richness of traditional Khmer culture and the progress being made in its revitalization. In Phnom Penh, the delegation had the privilege of meeting Van Nat, one of only 7 survivors of the Tuol Sleng S-21 concentration camp. Here, more than 14,000 men, women and children perished during the genocide under Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge. We sat in the camp's courtyard while he quietly described the horrors of that time. And later, we remembered his words as we walked in the killing fields on the edge of town. The Khmer Rouge had a devastating effect on Khmer culture. They killed most of Cambodia's musicians and artists, and sent the rest into the countryside to survive as best they could. In Phnom Penh, we visited more of the master performers that CLA has helped return home and begin again to teach their skills. In Tonle Bisak, one of the poorer squatter communities in Phnom Penh, Master Kung Nai gives his Chape Dong Veng lesson on the porch of his small house. Nearby, Master Tet Marie packs a dozen students and their instruments into a dark 12 by 12-foot room. Just down the same alley, Master Ki Mun teaches her 20 dance and opera students in a similar small room. The next evening, these students gave a most beautiful performance for CLA delegates and guests. This is cultural renewal at the most basic and beautiful level. And it was impossible for me not to contrast what we experienced in Siem Reap and Phnom Penh with our support of the arts back home. We have rich and varied cultural resources throughout America, but we often take them for granted. Although it is almost impossible to imagine how life would suffer without our musicians, our artists, our singers, our dancers. In the richest country in the world, the arts just get by, even with government and private support. Cambodia's cultural resources were essentially stripped away by the Khmer Rouge. They don't need to imagine how life would suffer, they know. For them, it's not a question of getting by, but of starting from scratch. And, as one of the poorest countries in the world, their government and indigenous private support is almost non-existent. What support they have comes from CLA and other organizations like it. So, Mary, Courtney and I went to Cambodia in January 2003 as tourists and returned as ardent supporters of Cambodian living arts and its work. And because we liked and admired the CLA staff, the masters and the students that we met, and because we enjoyed the intensity of CLA's work in Cambodia, it made sense to help by returning with future delegations to work on some useful project, as several other delegates have already done. And since I'm retired, I was lucky enough to do just that in 2004, and will go again in 2005. Unfortunately, I think I receive a great deal more than I give during these visits, but that's the risk one takes with organizations like Cambodian Living Arts.